Have you ever considered how much your feet contribute to your daily well-being? As often as we take our feet for granted, they play an indispensable role in supporting our bodies. From the moment we wake up to the time we lay down at night, our feet are at work, carrying the weight of our bodies and allowing us to walk, stand, and move through life. Despite their vital function, foot hygiene is frequently overlooked, and as a result, many individuals suffer from preventable conditions that could have been easily avoided with proper care. This is especially true for older adults who may experience complications from neglected foot hygiene, such as fungal infections, pain, and reduced mobility. The joys of gardening, Grandma Lynn's passion. Let me introduce you to a remarkable woman, Grandma Lynn. She was a lively, spirited individual with a love for gardening that was second to none. To her, gardening wasn't just a hobby, it was a therapy, a form of self-expression, and a way of feeling deeply connected to the earth. Every morning, Grandma Lynn would head to her backyard, pulling on her worn gloves and stepping outside to tend to her flowers and vegetables. The smell of fresh soil, the feel of the sun warming her skin, and the satisfaction of watching plants grow under her nurturing touch brought her immense joy. It was her way of grounding herself in nature. But as much as Grandma Lynn adored gardening, there was one small detail she didn't think much about: her feet. In her pursuit of happiness, she spent hours walking barefoot through her garden, feeling the cool, damp soil between her toes. She loved the feeling of being grounded, of being part of the natural world, but over time, this simple act of walking barefoot would have unintended consequences for her health. The silent danger: fungi and bacteria on unwashed feet. For all the beauty and joy gardening brought her, Grandma Lynn began to notice something unsettling. At first, it was just a small discomfort, a bit of redness on the soles of her feet. She didn't think much of it. After all, gardening often left her feet a little dirty, but nothing she couldn't brush off. But as the days went by, the irritation grew worse. Her feet became itchy, the redness spread, and soon the skin began to peel. What had seemed like a trivial annoyance soon turned into something more serious. The discomfort worsened, and her feet became painful to walk on. Despite the increasing pain, Grandma Lynn continued to ignore the signs. She thought it was just a minor irritation that would go away on its own. But it didn't. Eventually, the pain became so unbearable that she had no choice but to visit the doctor. It was then that she learned the hard truth. Her neglected foot hygiene had led to a fungal infection. The dirt and moisture that had accumulated on her feet from walking barefoot in the garden had created the perfect environment for fungi and bacteria to thrive. Fungi, such as athlete's foot, are highly contagious and flourish in warm, moist environments. Her daily exposure to the dampness of the soil, combined with inadequate cleaning of her feet, had allowed these harmful organisms to multiply and spread. The once mild discomfort she had brushed off had evolved into a painful condition that now required medical treatment. The doctor's advice: the importance of foot hygiene. Grandma Lynn's doctor explained to her that foot hygiene is often one of the most overlooked aspects of personal care. She had unwittingly created an environment where harmful bacteria and fungi could flourish simply by not cleaning her feet properly. Her doctor stressed the importance of washing her feet thoroughly every day with soap and water, especially after spending time outdoors. He recommended drying her feet completely after each wash and applying a moisturizing cream to keep her skin supple and free from cracks. Additionally, he advised wearing breathable shoes that allowed her feet to stay dry and recommended avoiding walking barefoot in places where fungi could easily spread. Grandma Lynn was initially overwhelmed by the gravity of the situation. She had never imagined that something as seemingly insignificant as neglecting her feet could lead to such complications. However, the doctor's advice was clear. If she wanted to return to gardening and live a life free from pain, she would need to take better care of her feet. The good news was that with diligent care, she could reverse the damage and restore her feet to full health. The healing process, recovery and renewed awareness. After receiving medical treatment for the fungal infection, Grandma Lynn followed her doctor's advice carefully. She made it a daily ritual to wash her feet thoroughly, paying extra attention to the areas between her toes and around her heels. She dried them well, making sure there was no lingering moisture that could invite more bacteria. She also began to apply moisturizing cream to keep her feet soft and supple, preventing any cracks from forming. Over the course of a few weeks, her feet gradually healed. The redness faded, the peeling skin disappeared, and the pain subsided. Before long, Grandma Lynn was able to return to her beloved garden, enjoying her time outdoors without the discomfort that had plagued her for so long. However, her recovery wasn't just physical. It was a wake-up call. Grandma Lynn had learned the hard way that foot hygiene is not something to be taken lightly. She came to understand that by neglecting her feet, she had put her mobility, independence, and overall quality of life at risk. From that point on, she made a conscious effort to care for her feet, incorporating daily cleaning and moisturizing routines into her life. It was a small change, but it had a big impact on her well-being. The importance of foot hygiene, a broader perspective. Grandma Lynn's experience is not an isolated case. Many people, especially as they age, struggle with foot health due to neglect or lack of awareness. As we get older, our feet become more vulnerable to a variety of issues. Circulation slows down, the skin becomes thinner, and our ability to heal diminishes. A minor issue, such as a small cut or infection, can quickly escalate into something much more serious. Infections like athlete's foot can spread, leading to more severe conditions, including cellulitis, a skin infection, or even amputation if left untreated. Moreover, as people age, they often experience a decline in their mobility and balance. Foot problems, such as fungal infections, cracked heels, or painful calluses, can make walking difficult and uncomfortable, increasing the risk of falls and injuries. For older adults, maintaining proper foot hygiene is not just about comfort. It's about preserving independence and mobility. Taking care of one's feet is essential for staying active and maintaining a good quality of life. Section 4. The sensitive area around the neck. Let me take a moment to share with you the story of Aunt Rose, a woman who embodies grace, elegance, and the kind of wisdom that only comes with time. In her 70s, Aunt Rose had always been known for her polished appearance, often seen wearing stunning pearls that shimmered against her skin and scarves that added a touch of sophistication to any outfit. She had a way of carrying herself that exuded confidence and poise, an inner elegance that radiated through her every movement. Her presence, subtle yet undeniable, filled any room with an aura of respect and admiration. Throughout her life, Aunt Rose had taken great pride in maintaining her appearance, spending time ensuring that every detail of her routine was thoughtfully curated. From her perfectly styled hair to her neatly pressed clothes, Aunt Rose was an embodiment of timeless beauty. People admired her attention to detail, not just because of her external beauty, but because it reflected the depth of her personality, her values, and the way she approached life. She had a quiet, almost regal demeanor, a woman who understood the delicate balance of taking care of oneself, both physically and mentally. And over the years, Aunt Rose had perfected the art of self-care. The subtle changes. But, as with many things in life, time can bring about subtle changes that, over the years, become more pronounced. Aunt Rose, too, was not immune to the natural processes of aging. It started, as these things often do, with something seemingly small, a slight, persistent itch around her neck. At first, it was just an occasional annoyance, a fleeting moment of irritation that she could easily dismiss. After all, Aunt Rose had lived through much more significant challenges in her life and had always been able to bounce back, unflustered. A bit of an itch, she thought, was hardly worth worrying about. However, the sensation lingered, becoming a more frequent and persistent discomfort. The subtle itch began to evolve into a mild redness that appeared around her neck's folds, a common area where sweat and moisture could accumulate, especially in the humid summers of her hometown. Still, Aunt Rose wasn't too concerned. She attributed the redness to the summer heat, or perhaps a reaction to a new fabric in one of her scarves. It was not the first time that her skin had shown a bit of irritation. In fact, Aunt Rose had always been sensitive to certain materials and had long been careful about what touched her skin. She had always avoided overly synthetic fabrics, preferring natural fibers like cotton and silk, which she believed allowed her skin to breathe. But the itch was different this time, and despite her best efforts to ignore it, it began to spread, and the redness intensified. Seeking help, Aunt Rose, always one to take charge of her health, decided it was time to take action. Her son, who had noticed her discomfort, suggested that she see a dermatologist, but Aunt Rose hesitated at first. After all, she had always managed her own health and hygiene without the need for outside help. She was proud of her ability to handle things on her own. However, as the days passed and the discomfort only worsened, her pride was eventually overshadowed by the realization that this issue was beyond her control. Her son's gentle urging was enough to convince her. After all, she had trusted medical professionals for decades, from general practitioners to specialists who helped her through more serious health concerns over the years. This, she reasoned, was no different. She made the appointment, albeit with a slight reluctance, but deep down, she knew it was the right decision. The appointment with the dermatologist was revealing, though not in the way Aunt Rose had anticipated. She was surprised to learn that what had seemed like an insignificant irritation was actually a result of a combination of factors, from her aging skin, which was more prone to dryness, to the natural folds of her neck, where sweat, oils, and environmental pollutants could gather unnoticed. The doctor explained that as we age, our skin loses its natural oils, and the moisture that we once relied on to keep our skin supple and protected starts to diminish. The neck area, in particular, was more vulnerable to this loss of moisture, and without regular care, it could easily become irritated and infected. The doctor provided her with a gentle yet effective treatment plan. She was advised to use a mild soap to cleanse the area daily, followed by a light, fragrance-free moisturizer to help restore her skin's natural barrier. The doctor also suggested that Aunt Rose wear looser clothing and avoid tight scarves that could rub against the sensitive area. Additionally, she was told to incorporate neck exercises and massages to increase blood flow and help keep the skin in that area more supple. The path to recovery. With the doctor's advice in hand, Aunt Rose began the healing process. She followed the routine diligently, incorporating the new skincare regimen into her daily life. She washed her neck carefully every morning and evening, making sure to use the right products and be gentle with her skin. The itching slowly subsided and the redness faded. Over time, Aunt Rose began to notice a gradual improvement in the texture and appearance of her skin. Her neck, once irritated and inflamed, was becoming smoother, less sensitive, and more radiant. But what was perhaps more remarkable than the physical healing was the psychological shift Aunt Rose experienced. Caring for her neck, an area that she had always taken for granted, became an act of self-compassion. It reminded her that, as she aged, it was essential to not only look after her physical well-being, but to also be mindful of the small details that made her feel good about herself. Her story serves as a valuable lesson in the importance of maintaining proper hygiene and skincare routines as we grow older. The neck area, often neglected, can become a source of discomfort and self-consciousness if not properly cared for. And while aging can change the way our skin reacts to the environment, It also teaches us that it's never too late to start caring for ourselves in new and thoughtful ways. Aging gracefully. The importance of regular care. Aunt Rose's experience with her neck reminds us that skin health is a lifelong journey. As we age, our skin becomes thinner and more fragile. The natural oils that once protected it start to deplete, and areas like the neck, which are prone to friction, sweating, and exposure to the elements, can become susceptible to irritation, dryness, and infection. Incorporating a daily skincare routine that includes gentle cleansing and moisturizing can help protect these vulnerable areas. For Aunt Rose, the change was transformative, not just in her skin's health, but in her overall sense of well-being. By taking the time to care for her neck, she reminded herself, and all of us, that beauty and self-care are not just about aesthetics, but about nurturing the body with kindness and attention to its needs, no matter how small those needs might seem. Conclusion. Aunt Rose's journey serves as a reminder that sometimes the simplest things, like taking care of an often overlooked area of the body, can have a profound impact on our overall health, self-esteem, and quality of life. By paying attention to the details, we can maintain our confidence, dignity, and independence, no matter our age. In a world that constantly demands more of us, sometimes the best way to reclaim control is to focus on the little things, like the health of our skin. It's these acts of care, no matter how small, that allow us to live our lives with grace, elegance, and vitality.